Mr. 𝐿i-𝐴𝐿𝐼, Chief Executive Officer of the Bank of China, Mr. 𝐻/𝐻/𝐻𝐿𝐼, First Deputy Governor of the Bank of Mauritius, Mr. Daniel Esu, Chief Executive Officer of the Mauritius Bankers Association, Dr. Sunil Budu, Director of the International Trade Division, Mr. Bisundayal, Director of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Regional Integration and International Trade, and also we have the SC who is here. Thank you for being here with us today. And I would like to also thank the Ministry of Labor, Human Resource Development and Training for supporting this event. And we'll start shortly with you guys, and also from the Procurement Office for supporting this event today. So everybody, thank you. Thank you for being here. Time is going very, very fast. So we'll also like to acknowledge the presence of 𝐴𝐿𝑖𝐭𝐢𝐮𝐬 law firm from China who has joined us today. They came this morning and they graced this event. So very happy to have a delegation from China already to discuss about opportunities in Mauritius. So, right, we will now embark on three successive brief presentations. The first one, we have the privilege to have Mr. Bhagwan Singh Debi Singh and Mr. Anand Madhu from the Public Procurement Office that will take us through a presentation on policy interpretation of contracting projects. So please join me to welcome Mr. Debi Singh and Mr. Madhu for their presentation on policy interpretation of contracting projects. Thank you. Please put your hands together to welcome our two speakers.
Distinguished guests, Deputy Governor of the Bank of Mauritius, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed, because I've got only 15 minutes, so I'm trying to squeeze everything in it, right? It is my pleasure to represent the Procurement Policy Office today at this workshop and to share with you the process of procurement. The topic given to me is very broad. Maybe at the last minute I suggested that we should have had a panel, because we are talking on policy interpretation of contracting project, which is, it implies a lot of institution, and I don't see some of the people around, but we will try to respond to all your queries and questions. Ladies and gentlemen, procurement as it is becoming a very important component in the daily life of all public bodies, and it's also very sensitive and very, you have to be very cautious when you are doing procurement. It's very important. You got a lot of temptation, lot of interpretation, but you should refrain from interpreting, because we have got a law which is called the Public Procurement Act of 2006, and we have got Public Procurement Regulation of 2008, and also we have got a set of directives, circulars, guidelines that you have to follow. But don't worry too much. Maybe one good news, there was an assessment that was done for the public procurement system of Mauritius over the past 2 years, and I can assure all of you that the report has come out. It's called the MAPS assessment. The report has come out and it has been approved by OECD. So very soon, in the month of February, we will disseminate the report to all of you who are around the table. what is the process of entering a bidding exercise? First of all, you have to understand that as an international contractor or a big contractor, it might not be easy for you to bid for all the projects that you have. For instance, if you take what you call a major contract, a major contract is undertaken at the level of public body, and that major contract would be above 135 million rupees. That major contract is specific, and if you go in the law, in the PPA, at Schedule 1 to 4, you will see what you call prescribed amount for each public body, local authorities, and SOEs. You will see all of them, what is the prescribed amount. Beyond a prescribed amount, the public body is mandatory for it to send the document to the Central Procurement Board. Now, when you are talking of a major project is 135 million rupees, and beyond 3,500, at that particular point, 135 or above, the document is vetted by the Central Procurement Board. The document, the bid is floated by the public body, the received by the Central Procurement Board, evaluated by the Central Procurement Board, and recommended for award by the Central Procurement Board. Very important to understand, because I see the audience in front of me. You have to understand, as international bidders, you have to understand clearly. Second thing is that all public bodies, if it is a government institution, if it is a parastatal, a government institution, the ceiling will be 100 million rupees. Above 100 million rupees, the bid should go to the Central Procurement Board. If it is a local authority, the ceiling will be 35 million rupees. Above 35 million rupees, the process will go to the Central Procurement Board. And if it is now in our system, due to COVID-19, we had to introduce what you call project reserve for local contractors up to 300 million rupees, where pre-qualification is not required. But, you know, we had to do that because we had a lot of problems during COVID time to get access to contractors which were internationally based, because people were not moving. So we had to introduce that in our law. Once situation is quite normal, we will see to it that it is redressed to the original situation. The other thing that we have in our law is that recently in the new budget, we have a sum of 20 million rupees, project up to 20 million rupees is reserved for SMEs. And these SMEs, they also benefit from a margin of preference. There is a margin of preference for them, and they benefit from that. I'm not going into the details. The detail, you will go into the law, you will get it there. There is one thing that there was one question that has been sent by the international contractors here in the audience, is when do international contractors can bid, where, at what point? Above 200 million rupees, projects are floated internationally. We have what you call an open advertised international bid. So beyond 200 million rupees, normally projects are advertised international. But there is one thing that you have to bear in mind, that if ever the expertise is not available in Mauritius, even below 200 million rupees, we can go for an international bid, if the expertise is not there. Now, let's look at the process. There is a publication, there is the publication of the annual procurement plan, which is the APP. There is the publication of the annual procurement plan. And once you have the annual procurement plan, this is mandatory in the law. So if you go on any portal of public bodies, you will see what is the annual procurement plan. And we are going to make it, we are going to insist that all public bodies do publish their annual procurement plan. Then you can have a proper follow-up on what's happening in the public body. Now, once the public bodies publishes the annual procurement plan. The contractors can have an insight of what's going to happen in the upcoming project. There will be an invitation for bid. That invitation for bid, since 2 years, in 2021, from the 1st January 2021, electronic procurement has become mandatory in Mauritius. So the first place that you will see an advert with regards to a project, you will have to see it on the electronic procurement system. And if you are a contractor operating in Mauritius, you have to register yourself on the electronic procurement system so that you get the tinkle when there is any project coming up. And of course, you will have it on the papers, but I'm not too insisting on the papers because it won't stay there for long. We will focus everything on the electronic procurement system because internationally people look at it and locally also. The opening of the bid is done by the public body, if it is a public body business. The opening of the bid is done by them. They appoint a BEC, a bid evaluation committee, but if it is a project that goes to the CPB, then the opening will be done at the CPB and the BEC will be appointed by the CPB. You have the evaluation done and then you have the approval of the award of contract. Now, in a public body, it is done at the level of what you call a departmental bid committee. But in the Central Procurement Board, it's done at the level of the board. So once this is approved, there is, if it is a bid more than 15 million rupees, you have to notify the bidder, the winning bidder, and then notify the other bidders in case they have any challenge that they want to do. So you have to notify them. Once you notify them, then if there is no challenge, then there is a standstill period to give sufficient time for a challenge. After that, there is the award of the contract. So the award of the contract, as I said, the Central Procurement Board, you have to understand it clearly. The Central Procurement Board does not award a contract. The Central Procurement Board recommends the award of the contract because this whole process goes back to the public body. The Central Procurement Board is just the organization that looks at projects which are above what you call the prescribed amount. And after that, you have the contract management and you have completion of contract. Very soon, you will see that all these processes are on the electronic procurement system and it is followed. Even contract monitoring can be done on the electronic procurement system. What is contract monitoring? It's very important to know. I see senior executive who is here. It's very important. From your desk, you sit on your desk, you have awarded a contract. At any one time, you can click on the button, enter your system, and see what is happening in the project. You will see what your engineer is doing because he will have to feed in the figures. He will have to feed in the information. If there is any change, let's say it is a project which is internationally financed, that is, there is a foreign financing. If there is any change in foreign currency, if there is any change in exchange rate, this will apply on the system and he will know that, okay, my project value has increased because there is a change in exchange rate. He will also know that if there is any variation, any additional works that has been given to a contractor, this will be reflected in front of him, and he will know that my price, my final price will change. At completion, my price will change, and he will also know that there is a change in the completion date, because if I have given additional work, there will be an extension of time. So this is clear in front of him at any one time. So this is very important. Eligibility of a bidder, it's very important for you to understand at the very onset that the eligibility of bidder, any bidder in Mauritius, any potential or any bidder in Mauritius, has to be registered with the Construction Industry Development Board, CIDB. It's very important that you get registered, and the registration, the provisional certificate given to you is valid for 1 year. Once you are awarded a contract, you have to apply for a temporary registration. And this registration then allows you to start working on the contract. There is, same thing, there is the collaboration for joint venture and subcontracting. This also, it is very important to be registered with the CIDB. But there is one thing you have to understand, is that contractors have to register with CIDB, and it is good to note that CIDB has also introduced e-registration. So if you apply for a registration with CIDB, I'm given to understand that within 4 days, you will get your provisional certificate for you to start operation. The process having been told to you, in a process, of course, there are people who are not satisfied. There are people who are very satisfied. The winners will always be very satisfied. Those who have not got the bid for some reason, they might have some differences. They might not agree with the decision being taken. There are different points for you to challenge. The very first challenge that you can make is at the point when you see the notice being published. When there is a notice and you think that that notice is biased, it's being made for somebody very specific to get that contract, you can challenge that. You can call the public body within 5 days and tell him this notice, there is a problem in there. The specifications are not correct, because according to me, this specification will meet only one contractor in Mauritius or two contractors in Mauritius. So this is one point. The second one that you are allowed to challenge is at the point when the notification is done. Once there is a notification, you are informed that Mr. So-and-so is the winner of the bid, and unfortunately, you are not the winner. So you can challenge at that point if you feel there is something that has gone wrong. You can write to the chief executive or senior executive and tell him that I am not happy with that for these reasons. If he gives you a reply where you are satisfied, it ends there. If he gives you a reply where you are not satisfied, then you can proceed further. If he doesn't give you a reply, then also you can go to the IRP, and you have 7 days to go to the IRP. There is a very standard form in the law, in the PPA. At the back, there is a very standard law and standard form. You have to fill in the form and follow all the requirements of IRP, and then submit your request to the IRP. The IRP has got 30 days to give you a decision. After 30 days, the public body will award the contract. But normally, up to now, it has never happened that the IRP has gone beyond 30 days. Might be some cases, very rare, but it is normally within 30 days you get a reply, and this reply will tell you whether your case has got merit or demerit. Right. Section 45 of the Act provides for the right of review, which is we call a review to the IRP. According to Regulation 51, the application for review shall be accompanied by a security deposit of an amount of 100,000 rupees in the case where the application relates to the bid opening process or the award of a major contract, or 25,000 rupees in any other case, and a non-refundable processing fee of 50,000 rupees. The security deposit shall be forfeited where the review panel dismisses the application as frivolous. So this is in the law. I'm just bringing it up to you so that you take note of it. Having been given the opportunity of contracting, of bidding in Mauritius, and having been given the opportunity to be a successful bidder, it does not end there. We have to tell you at this particular point, if you don't perform, if you have, there is a plenty reason, if you are, for instance, if you gave false information, if you are defaulting in terms of performance, if you are, for instance, there is conflict of interest, all these, there is provision in the law for action against defaulting contractors. It's very important for you to understand that also. The first action that we take is at the level of the public body. There is Directive 35 and Regulation 35(1)(a), which states that all public bodies, and now it is mandatory, all public bodies have to set up a performance review committee, chaired by at least a deputy permanent secretary, DPS, right? It's very important because this performance review committee will follow, has the duty of following what is happening on site or on their project site. They have this duty to follow up and brief the senior chief executive. Because the performance review committee at the end of the contract will prepare a report and submit a report which will be discussed with the contractor, and following the discussion and the situation being discussed and agreed upon, the contractor can be excluded for a period of 6 months, which means that this particular public body will not allow this contractor to participate in any bidding exercise in that particular public body. But there has been an amendment that has been done to Regulation 35(1)(a), which states that if a contractor has been excluded in one public institution, this does not prevent a second public institution from refraining to give a contract to that contractor because he has been seen to be a poor performer. So this is very important for you to understand. The third point which is important is we go further into the action or to be taken against defaulting contractors. It might be a very major default that you have done. There are plenty of reasons. At Section 53 of the law, there are a number of reasons given why you could be disqualified or debarred. There are two options. This is done at the level of the public procurement, of the Procurement Policy Office. That is, the public body will write to the Procurement Policy Office stating that, you know, contractor so-and-so is working with me, but unfortunately, he has been a poor performer, and this has caused prejudice to the public body, or he has done a major mistake, and he has been convicted by the police, or there has been a sort of collusion. There are plenty of reasons, right? And in this case, he can recommend to the Procurement Policy Office to take action, either to disqualify the contractor or to debar the contractor. Now, what is a disqualification? You have to, the regulation on disqualification and debarment clearly state that under Section 6 of the regulation, you have to tell us the name of the contractor, the representative, the reason for disqualification or debarment, and how long you want him to be debarred. 3 years, 5 years, 2 years, 1 year, or whatever. Now, the process is very important. Once we receive a request for debarment or disqualification, we send a letter to the contractor and the public body. They can come with their lawyer or they can be accompanied with a lawyer. They come to our office and there is a hearing. This hearing should be done within 14 days from the time we receive the letter. Once the hearing is done, then we proceed with the debarment. If at the hearing the contractor has proved that he was not at fault and he has justification to say that he was not at fault, then this could end there. But otherwise, it goes on with the advice of SLO, everything. It goes on up to the point where we give a second chance to the contractor to ask for a hearing, and at the end of that, within 50 days from the day you write a letter to the contractor, that is the day we start the process, up to the point where we where the director of the Procurement Policy Office takes the decision, it all should sum up to 50 days. And at the end of 50 days, your name will be on the Government Gazette, the contractor's name will be on the Government Gazette, and it will be on the portal of Procurement Policy Office. For the simple reason that once you are disqualified or debarred for a period of 5, 6, or 5 years, or 3 years, or whatever, you are not going to be allowed to participate in any bidding exercise in any public body on the island. It goes on the system, and World Bank, African Development Bank, Asian Development Bank will be informed of the decision that has been taken, right? So this is we have to be clear on that. This debarment being said, you know, we have been good enough to tell you about the process. We have been good enough to tell you about how you challenge, but you have been also be good enough to tell you what are the actions that can be taken of you against you if you are a defaulting contractor, right? And if you want to have more information, this is our website. You go on the website, you will have all a copy of the law, you will have a copy of the regulation, directives, circulars, whatever it comes up. We have an email, which is pposecretariat@govmu.org. Anything you can write there, and you will have a response very quickly. For the electronic procurement, you have an eProc desk, which is a help desk. You write an email to that, you will be given information accordingly. Okay? And thank you. I think I am through. If there is any question, I've got my colleague here. We can reply to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. 𝐷𝐸𝐶𝐻. Any question, any pertinent question? We could take one question now for Mr. 𝐷𝐸𝐶𝐻 and Mr. Madhu. No, nobody's got a question? We will be sharing the slides with you, Dylan at the back from the ADB, and also our colleagues from the embassy will kindly share with you the presentation today. Thank you, Mr. 𝐷𝐸𝐶𝐻. Thank you, Mr. Madhu. Right, so just to sum up, the three processes, application, challenge, disqualification, so that has been shared with you today. And our guests, operators from China, so please, if you have any further information, don't hesitate to get in touch with Dylan or myself, and we will certainly share more information with you. I wish to also apprise that the topics today were decided in collaboration with the embassy based on the requests on our operators from the People's Republic of China as well. And that takes us to our second presentation, which is on overseas labor introduction and employment. And we have the privilege to have with us Mr. Kailash Hemraj, the Acting Chief Employment Coordinator, Mr. Mehdi Pokiebox, Office Management Assistant, and Mr. Manuraj Mangra, Principal Labor and Industrial Relations Officer from the Ministry of Labor, Human Resource Development and Training. Please join me in welcoming the gentlemen to the stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. I thank the ADB who has given our ministry the opportunity to have a presentation on overseas labor introduction and employment. The ministry has designated myself, Mr. Pokiebox, Office Management Assistant at the Ministry of Labor, and my colleague, Mr. Hemraj, Acting Chief Employment Coordinator, and Mr. Mangra, Principal Industrial Labor Relations Officer. Our topic for today will be employment of non-citizens in Mauritius, which will be covered by me, and inspection before issue of work permits, which will be covered by our friend Mr. Hemraj, and Mr. Mangra will cover the topic of protection and control mechanism of migrant workers. There are two types of employment permits. First of all, there is the occupation permit. Occupation permit is governed by Section 12 of the Immigration Act. An occupation permit is a combined work and residence permit issued to a foreign worker to enable him to work and reside in Mauritius. There are mainly three categories. There are professionals, investors, and self-employed. The EDB is responsible for the issuance of the occupation permit. As per Section 3 of the Non-Citizens Employment Restriction Act, the Ministry of Labour is vested with the power and responsibility to issue work permits in respect of non-citizens to enable them to take up employment in Mauritius. However, there are some exceptions whereby some workers may be exempted from a work permit. For example, for all government projects, there is also in the fishing sector, and for embassies, etc. Now we'll proceed with the policies and procedures for the grant of a work permit. First of all, the employer must meet all eligibility requirements. These are applicable to new applications and also for renewal cases. First of all, the company should be a legal entity and should be operational. It should be incorporated in Mauritius. The company should be holder of all valid licenses. For example, in the construction industry, they should have a valid CIDB certificate. And for example, in the tourism sector, they should have their tourism enterprise licenses. To be able to apply for work permit, the employer should be authorized to recruit foreign workers. That is, the employer should have a permission in principle. A permission in principle means a quota allocated to a company as per ratio of local workers to foreign workers. There are some pre-application procedures that need to be followed before granting of work permit. First of all, the company should have a PIP and should advertise for the job locally, should advertise for the jobs so as not to penalize local Mauritians. A contract of employment should be vetted between the employer and employee, and it is our ministry that will vet the contract of employment, ensuring that all conditions are being applied as per the remuneration order. The employer must have a valid lodging accommodation permit, that is, should have a valid permit for dormitories where the expatriates will live and should be in line with the occupational health and safety. Before traveling to Mauritius, the employees, that is the non-citizens, should carry out a provisional medical test, and the Ministry of Health and Wellness will, if all is okay, will provide a provisional medical clearance to the expatriate. Application of work permit must be made in accordance with the guidelines of the Ministry of Labour and must be done through authorized person, that is, licensed agencies or the employer himself. There are some conditions attached to the grant of a work permit. First of all, foreign workers should be aged between 20 years and 60 years. However, some derogation may be made from this policy for investors and expatriates who possess specific expertise. Expatriates traveling to Mauritius on tourist visa or student visa are not allowed to take up employment in Mauritius. The employer should not have recourse to illegal recruitment agencies. An employer is not authorized to employ any foreign worker without a valid work permit in respect of that employment. And a work permit is non-transferable, that is, cannot be transferred to another company without any prior authorization from the Ministry of Labour. Applications are submitted to the Ministry of Labour over the counter with all required documents and payment of all of required fees. There are certain ratios that needs to be followed before grant of work permit. Now I invite my colleague Mr. 𝐿𝐵𝑒𝑒𝑚𝑒𝑚𝑒𝑒𝑠 to talk on inspection before issue of work permits.
Thank you, Mehdi. Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm from the National Employment Department. I'll be talking on inspection report prior to grant of work permit. The company applying for work permit should submit an EIC report. It is an evidence to show that there is availability of skills required in the local market. For that, the employer must contact the regional EIC, this is an Employment Information Center in their region, post the vacancies on our website, mauritiusjobs.gov.org, advertise the vacancies into leading newspapers. Normally, the senior employment officers of EICs provide the EIC report after the above conditions have been met and feedback obtained for job seekers who have been submitted by the EIC. Those who have applied on our website and as well as applications received as a result of press advertisement. Now on to full report. Our officers are also required to conduct inspections at the company and site of work to ensure that company has every required document for processing the application. Information is required on relevant licenses and permit to operate, appropriate tools and equipment, fire certificate and lodging accommodation permit, health clearance, number of local workers, loss-free CSG returns, turnover of the company, and any other documents that may be required. Information are also requested from the employer on the duties for which the expatriate is being required, method of recruitment, whether self or through a private recruitment agency. After a grant of work permit, training may be provided to local counterparts. The employer has a responsibility to ensure that the expatriate trains a local Mauritian for certain special skills. I now invite my friend from the Special Migrant Workers Unit to explain to you their role regarding employment of migrant workers.
Thank you, Mr. 𝐿𝐵𝑒𝑒𝑚𝑒𝑒𝑠. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm Mr. 𝐵𝑒𝑒𝑚𝑒𝑒𝑠. I'm posted in the Labor Division of the Ministry of Labour. It is good to know that in the Labor Division, we have different departments. We have Enforcement Department, Training Department, Research Department, and for me, myself, I'm posted in a specific department, a unit. We call it Special Migrant Workers Unit. This unit was set up in 1999 with a view to cater majorly on migrant workers, because nowadays, many more migrant workers are coming to Mauritius. So, as my friend explained, prior to a foreign worker coming to Mauritius, the employer is duty-bound to submit an original agreement written agreement to the Ministry of Labor in my unit, where our officers, we vet these agreements, we scrutinize it to see whether the terms and conditions in employment mentioned in the said contract is in line with the law. It is good to know that the Mauritian law, it applies to both Mauritian workers and even for foreign workers. We have different sectors like distributive, domestic, construction, hotels, restaurants. So there are specific laws, regulations covering these sectors. So when we verify the contract, we ensure that the specific law is being applied for these kind of work, inclusive of their salary also, which should be paid. It is good also to note that an employer has the right to give better conditions than what is provided by the law, but he has no right to give conditions which are less favorable than the law. So once the employer has finalized this process for bringing these expatriate workers to Mauritius, when they are in Mauritius coming to work, the employer is supposed to give the original copy of the agreement, contract employment, to this worker. So after some time, when he has started the employment, our officers, we make it a must to visit these enterprises and try to talk to these employees, try to meet them, we meet the maximum of them. So we do it using inspection. Sorry, please. Yeah. I have talked on vetting of contract. Sorry. And now, when we are working, we make it a must to visit these people to see to it that whether they have really received a copy, an original copy of a contract employment, and we also try to meet them, to talk to them, to explain them about the law, whether they have been understood, what have been written in the contract employment, and whether also the contract employment has been vetted by the ministry. Okay? And during our inspection, wherever we encounter any grievances by these migrant workers, we take up these issues with the employer and we try to remedy the situation. So if ever employers, they are reluctant in complying with the law, we have a mechanism at the ministry where we can finally sue an employer for not complying with the law. Now, it's good also to note that a migrant worker, wherever he has any grievance on his terms and condition employment, he can come actually at our desk at the migrant unit to register his complaint. Once we register the complaint at the labor office, we have different ways how to intervene, like we can carry out inspection, carry out visits, or even convene the employer at the labor office to see to it whether the complaint raised by the worker is founded or no. So when we do conciliation, we do mediation also, we try to come to a solution. If the case is not settled, we even have another mechanism where you can put the case before the court. Okay? And it's good also to note that actually when a migrant worker has different types of grievances, let's say for example, someone is not receiving salary, or he has got lodging constraint, food constraint. The migrant worker, actually, when he comes to the migrant unit, we have to refer him to another section. As regard lodging problems, we have to refer him to the Occupational Health and Safety Department. So regarding another issue, we have to refer him to another stakeholders. But nowadays, there is something very interesting which the ministry is almost finalizing. It's a special desk where a migrant worker can come to the ministry to register any type of complaint. So this desk, this special desk, will be called one-stop shop. The one-stop shop when a migrant worker has different types of complaint, he can come to the ministry, and the one desk officer, he will liaise with the stakeholders concerned. Referral will be made to different stakeholders, and the officer will follow up on each issue, whether the grievances have been settled or not. Okay? So I think I have given an overview of how the migrant worker unit we operate. And on this, I will thank you very much. If you have any question, we will try to help you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. But any question? We can take one quick question. Yes?
I think the first speaker mentioned the ratio of employed foreign workers. Yes. Maybe you can expand on that.
Which sector?
Let's say in the sectors you mentioned, tourism and construction.
For construction, the ratio of local to foreign workers is 1:1. The length of stay is 8 years. For tourism, the ratio is 1:3. 1 foreign worker is equal to 3 local. Duration, 4 years. Period of stay, 4 years. Any question?
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you from the ministry. Please put your hands together to thank the gentleman for sharing with us the on how to get the work permit for the different sectors. And if you have any question, and also the slides will be shared with you as well. But if you do have any further question, don't hesitate to send to the EDB or also the embassy, and we shall make sure that we get the appropriate answers to you. So the next presentation, which is going to be from my colleague, Mrs. Pratima Sipar, Manager of the Information Technology and BPO cluster at the EDB. She will do a quick presentation on digital transformation and information security. Please welcome Mrs. Sipar. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinay. Good afternoon, everybody, and Tajahau. Thank you. Well, before going through the presentation, I would just like to present the apologies of my director, Dr. Drishti Ramdeni, who unfortunately could not make it today due to last-minute personal commitment. So I'll try to be a good substitute here. Well, I'm sure that most of you here are very much familiar about the demography of Mauritius. But what it's also important to note is that Mauritius has been repeatedly, demonstrated its resilience over the years in face of adversity. And the transition, in fact, from a monocrop to a services-dominant economy has been quick following the dismantling of the various trade agreements. So today, the Mauritian economic base is well diversified, with key pillars in manufacturing, construction, and financial services. So you will note as well that the ICT BPO industry has emerged as a key engine of growth, with a GDP contribution of 6.6%. Now coming specifically to the ICT BPO industry. Well, its development and success would have been really subdued had there not been some bold reforms and also probe actions. Several milestones have been met since 2002, when the country first got connected on the safe fiber optic cable. This was then coupled with the construction of the first cyber tower in 2004, and those two elements, in fact, constituted a key cornerstone in the promotion of Mauritius as an outsourcing destination. Subsequently, we had legislative reforms which were undertaken, and then the diversity in terms of connectivity has been ensured, with Mauritius being connected to 3 international gateways. And this year, more recently, the setting up of the Mauritius Emerging Technology Council, in fact, underlined the commitment and the vision of government in really propelling Mauritius into the innovation arena. A brief overview of the ICT BPO industry in Mauritius, which you will note has been quite dynamic since 2011. The industry, which now has reached the milestone of 900 companies this year, employs around 32,000 people across various segments, be it IT outsourcing, business process outsourcing, or even IT services. And though ITO constitutes a major segment of the industry, well, it's good to note that the BPO segment remains the major generator of employment in Mauritius. So as you can note, the investment opportunities cut across those various areas, and more recently, in fact, with the development in the digital space, Mauritius has been able to embrace opportunities as well within the emerging technologies arena. Its particular focus is e-commerce, AI, cybersecurity, even cloud computing. Well, there is no doubt that over the years, Mauritius has been able to cement its position and reputation as a credible, attractive, secure business platform. And this has encouraged major multinationals, as highlighted on the slide, to choose Mauritius as their destination and as part of their global delivery model. We have some key Chinese companies as well, and among which we have Huawei, which joined the landscape since 2006 and has been really very, very active, both on the shared service and on the technology arena. Well, you will get to hear more from Huawei just after the slide, from the Deputy CEO, in fact. But the success of Mauritius has a platform, has even been acknowledged on the international arena, front, has testified in the 2 major, key accolades. Most recently, for the Global Innovation Index, where Mauritius is ranked 45th, and first in Sub-Saharan Africa, and also last year in the Kearney Global Services Index, where Mauritius is the only African country and the first island state to feature in the new metric used by Kearney, that is the digital resonance metric, thus underlying, in fact, the prominence of the country as a technology hub. While over the years, the government has always been strived to create a nurturing environment so that the businesses can grow and thrive in Mauritius. Several reforms and also improvements have been brought on the business environment level, as well as on certain key digital enablers, namely on the digital infrastructure and also access to digital skills. We note that much efforts have been laid on improving the connectivity and also increasing redundancy and diversity. Mauritius is already connected to 3 international submarine cable, and there is another one, the 4th one, which is due to become operational, the T3 project, by next year, Q2 next year. And as you are all aware, since 2018, Mauritius is 100% fiber covered, and there is also 5G, which is available in some key strategic areas, and there is plan, of course, to increase the deployment in other places by next year. Well, I'm sure you will all agree with me that access to a pool of qualified manpower is a key determining factor for any company. And when it comes to the Mauritian resources, but we can say it's quality over quantity. In fact, lots of effort and great support is being provided by government in terms of the various training schemes and programs available, be it pre-employment or even post-employment. And all that with a view of building capability and also the national pool of trained manpower. Moreover, there has been national initiatives which has been introduced with a view of reskilling, upskilling, and even converting reconverting, our manpower and our resources to meet the ever-increasing needs of our industry. The setting up of the DIA, the Digital Industry Academy, which is based on a public-private collaborative framework, constitute a major milestone in that whole process. Free courses have been launched as from July 2020, this year itself, by Huawei, and pertaining to general ICT, AI, and even cloud computing. And as at date, more than 200 people have already completed those courses. And again, you will get to know more from the Deputy CEO of Huawei just after this presentation. The legislative framework has also been improved and fine-tuned in line with international standards and conventions. The promulgation and the compliance of our data protection, the amendment of our Data Protection Act in 2018 and its compliance to the GDPR further illustrate the strong commitment of the government in further enhancing the credibility of Mauritius as an outsourcing destination. And here it's good to note as well that discussions are already ongoing with the European Union, in fact, so as Mauritius is being recognized as an adequate country. Well, as highlighted earlier, the ambition is to have an innovation-led growth and also to transform Mauritius into a digital island. And since the last 2 years, in fact, we have witnessed this drive towards digital transformation with the adoption and deployment of smart technologies in other industries, be it education, health, utilities, real estate, or even agriculture. Moreover, we know that the government has also, the Ministry of TCI, Technology and Communication, they have come forward with some innovative e-government services as well, namely 𝐴𝑚O_Cloud, 𝑀O_Rendezvous, 𝑀O_Pass, 𝑀O_Sign, with the objective of enhancing customer experience as well. On the fiscal side, the environment as well, the regime has been consolidated and improved with the introduction last year, 2020, of a new incentive framework, namely the investment certificate and the premium investor certificate, whereby companies engage in digital and innovative activities, they can avail of 8-year tax holidays and other benefits upon satisfying the relevant conditions and criteria, of course. Well, to conclude, what role can Mauritius further play within your business model? We believe that the country is a great destination of choice, be it for bilingual offshoring operations, technology platform, even has a regional headquarters, or has a shared service location. And here, in fact, I'm pleased to invite Mr. Wang, who is the Deputy CEO of Huawei, has highlighted Huawei is a key player on the ICT BPO landscape. And in fact, they are among the first companies having launched their shared services in Mauritius, already employing like 300 people. And Mr. Wang, in fact, will be talking to you about the reasons which have motivated the group to choose Mauritius, and also about the various projects on which we are currently working on. Thank you. Mr. Cheng.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So firstly, thank you, Mrs. Fatima, for the insightful presentation. And this reminds me of that proud and valuable moment in January 2021. So when Huawei Mauritius participated in the conference organized by the Chinese Embassy and the Mauritius Economic Development Board for the Free Trade Agreement. So on the same occasion, Huawei emphasized that the importance of new technology as enabler that shape the future economy for a smart and digital Mauritius. We are honored to be here again today to share our vision for technology. So, since the beginning of time, people had the need to reach out and communicate with each other, from smoke signals and even such like the rock art and the sounds of beating drums. So the modern world has evolved with speed with each generation of communication infrastructure better and faster than the previous. And we are honored to be a part of this exciting journey into the future and beyond. As we celebrate the innovation of telecommunications and the creation of an inclusive information society in Mauritius, we have to acknowledge that there is much more to do to ensure the participation and the growth of all sectors of society and the economy. We have to see that the science and the technology have created an opportunity for us to leapfrog and enter international affairs as an equal. The crisis and despair brought about the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic made the world and every citizen realize how vulnerable we are, not only as human beings, but also from the economic system and platforms we grew to trust and accept as the new norm. Where the pandemic brought about social and economic shock in our country and our people, we must look into the need to make the future more effective, bright, and most important, the digital. Okay, it is through technology and the identification of the opportunities they present that we can take our country and our people to a greater pedestal. Mauritius, as the star and key of the Indian Ocean, has experienced quick growth over the past years. Mauritius is the 80th most fiber-based country in the world. And the ICT industry plays a key driver in the Mauritian economy with quick growth of GDP contribution from 5.8% for 2019 to 6.6% for 2021. Digital economy is becoming the engine of the economic growth. Huawei started its business in Mauritius since 2004. We provide the latest and competitive ICT solution to the local operators and the customers which come from the different industry. Huawei Shared Service Center is one of the key departments of Huawei Mauritius. It benefits Mauritius' multi-language capacity and provide accounting services and enable financial capacity to all the branches. Actually, it's like more than 50 African countries. We currently have about 300 employees, of which 70% are Mauritian employees. Many Mauritian employees are recognized as high qualified employees and experts, not only in the key department in Mauritius, but also in our region. Today, Huawei has proudly become the ICT leading company in Mauritius. Together with its partner, Huawei introduced Africa's first 3G network in Mauritius in 2004, the first 4G network in 2012, and now contribute to the achievement of 5G now. This is all thanks to the openness of the strategy from the Mauritius government. Today, Mauritius has become one of the leading countries in the region of 5G. We are honored to participate in the development and transformation of the telecom industry, bringing more connectivity to Mauritians and making Mauritius as a perfect destination for the investor, visitor, and the citizens. The next exciting digital frontier is coming, and the engine of the digital world will consist by the 5G plus AI and cloud. In order to achieve this, we have to look at the skills as an enabler of the future. Digital transformation allows for the exports to innovative solutions which speed up the industry transformation progress and the advance. IoT and AI will be the part and parcel of the industry, allowing for green energy, safer, and more productive entities that contribute to the GDP growth and job creation. In Mauritius, Huawei have introduced various talent and certification programs in this regard. Our ICT program targets all the population. For example, the Seeds for the Future and the ICT competition are aimed at the brightest minds in the partner and enable them to make a difference in the world. The ongoing online training in collaboration with the Digital Industry Academy program allows a large number of officers from the public domain, professionals from the private sectors, and the youngest awaiting to work in ICT sector to learn the new technologies. The learners begin to think, how is AI? How about the cloud? And how the cybersecurity can improve their capacity at work. We thank the DAI team for this collaboration opportunity, and Huawei is committed to working with you in building an ICT talent pool, thriving development of the digitalization, along with the modification of ICT infrastructure. Cybersecurity is very important in this new digital world. It's the top priority for every company to comply with international cybersecurity standards and requirements. From products and solutions to end-to-end assurance, Huawei develops world-class solutions to protect its customer at every level. So Huawei opened transparency centers that allow our customers to test our technologies at every possible ways. We have served more than 3 billion people worldwide over the past 30 years, supporting stable operations with more than 1,500 carrier networks in more than 170 countries. Finally, to end, I would like to seize the opportunity to thank the Mauritius government for the valuable support throughout these years. We look forward to contribute more to China-Mauritius collaboration and pave the way during Mauritius' digital transformation journey. Thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this event, and we look forward to further engagement that will allow the networks and the people they serve to thrive in the digital economy of the future. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chen, for Deputy CEO of Huawei, for sharing with us the progression of Huawei so far in Mauritius and opportunities ahead as well. And my colleague, Mrs. Siopo, for taking us through the status on the ICT, digital, and cybersecurity, the ratings on global agencies, 45th in the world, and also 27th in the different ratings, strongly positioning Mauritius as a proper platform for ICT development. And I know there has been questions also from some of the operators from China, what are the opportunities in Mauritius? So certainly ICT digitalization through Mauritius for the African continent bodes well. And we, earlier, His Excellency the Ambassador also mentioned about the evolution of the free trade agreement between Mauritius and China, where the Mauritian jurisdiction could be used as a value-added platform for Chinese operators to enter the the African market. And to support that, certainly we need to have a trading platform, or we need to be able to trade properly and do all the finance transactions. And that's why I think now we're coming to the key part of this work session, where we will have a panel session on the RMB clearing hub. So please join me in welcoming to the stage Mr. 𝐷𝐸𝐿𝐴𝐵𝑂𝑈𝑟, First Deputy Governor of the Bank of Mauritius. Please put your hands together to welcome the speakers. Mr. Daniel Esu, Chief Executive Officer of the Mauritius Bankers Association. And Mr. Li Yanghong, Chief Executive Officer of the Bank of China. I'm sure that you will find that this is quite a high-profile panel. So certainly we're going to get a lot of good discussions and insight on the RMB Clearing Center. Just as a brief introduction, the China